Hi there, Serial Trader here. I'm going to do a quick check-in on CGC, and overall, this sequence to the upside still looks like it's playing out largely as you would expect. So I'm still counting this as a 1 up, 2 down of the largest degree there, and then smaller degree 1, 2, and then yet another smaller degree 1, 2, and now we're working this third of a third wave in all its subdivisions, and within that third wave we got a 1, 2, 3, tentatively 4 complete or nearly so, and then one more move up for a fifth of the third, and then another fourth and a fifth, and then another fourth and a fifth to perhaps complete a larger impulse wave to the upside that will then require some correcting before we can really trend up again. But this short-term pattern still looks incomplete to the upside. And despite that big down day on Friday, there's no real alarm bells going off here, at least not yet. We haven't done any overlap here of the previous highs or the previous resistance, if you will. And if that kind of zone became support where it was previously resistance, that's quite a bullish development, longer term. Even though it may not feel good to come down there and revisit those levels. But okay, so within this still developing impulse wave to the upside, I just want to go a little closer here. Let's go to maybe see if the 30-minute chart looks good here. Yeah, I think it does. So you can see you have a pretty nice proportionality, or just proportion, between this previous second wave and now the developing fourth wave that we're in. So it's nice for the fourth wave to be a little more time consuming than the second wave, and that's certainly taking place in this instance. But you can see, this is just kind of a nice, even a short-term depiction of what trending versus corrective price action looks like. So you can see trending, this initial wave 1 up here, the small degree 1 up, it moves a large distance in a short period of time. It has a very sharp slope, usually has good volume behind it, and then a corrective or non-trending move, or wave in this case, speaking in Elliott wave terms, like a corrective wave tends to consume more time, move slower, and be on lower volume, right? So even on this 30-minute price chart, you're seeing those characteristics. And then certainly a third wave on any time frame should be very obvious. It should be very powerful. There should be lots of volume. It should move a large distance in price in a relatively short period of time. And this certainly fits all those criteria. And then a fourth wave, once again, another corrective move. And it should be choppy, overlapping, consume a lot of time. Volume should decline, and that's certainly largely the case here as well. Now, I just want to... there's no evidence that this fourth wave is truly bottomed and we're about to just shoot back up here, but we're getting close to that point. But I do want to analyze just the shorter term wave structure here. Now I think what we're working here is a W and then an A, B, C, D, E, triangle X, and then coming down for a Y for that wave 4. So let me just get my degrees in order here. That should be 1 degree below that, subminuet. Okay, and I'll even label the subwaves. So I think we got our A, B, C down for that initial W, and we'll drop the degree to micro there. Let me just clean this up. Get rid of these lines. Okay, so ABC down for W, and then this should be a familiar pattern to anyone that's been watching. The nice triangle ABC, D, and E for that wave X. Again, get this to micro. And this is fairly ambiguous, so we might be working something along these lines where we got our A down, B up, and then a one more stab down there for Y of 4. Okay, now if we throw some lines up here. So to draw the corrective channel, we'll take the origin of wave W, termination point of triangle X, off of the extreme wave W. That gives us our corrective price channel. You can see still, even though we had this downdraft there on Friday, we're still largely contained within this parallel trend channel. So that's quite indicative of a corrective pattern in and of itself. It's definitely a feature you want to see. And we can just draw the triangle trend lines too, just to kind of make the triangle nice and pretty for you. Got the BD trend line and the AC trend line. Okay, so there you go. So that's what I'm seeing. So maybe a little bit more downside short term, not a whole lot though by the looks of it. And we're already getting oversold on these shorter term time frames, 30-minute, and I suspect the hourly is probably, yeah, the hourly got there as well, right around that 30 or 29 level. So things are looking good here, even on the short term wave structure. And I do fully expect this larger sequence still in progress, in my opinion, to continue subdividing to the upside. And again, just classical charting. Forget the the waves for a moment. We had this previous area of resistance. Let's call it in a range of 2150 to around 2250 or so. So let's call that the previous resistance range. Well, if that becomes a new support range, as we're working our way up, there's certainly nothing unhealthy about that. But yeah, nice pattern here just on the 30-minute chart. If you're a shorter term trader, this actually looks like a pretty nice buying setup here, possibly as early as Monday or early next week, depending on what happens here. I like to hold a core position in this particular company, but when I see a compelling short-term wave pattern, I'll certainly play with that as well. So that's how I like to operate. Have that core position for that longer-term move you're looking at, but then play when the action dictates you should play. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing there. And we'll go to the I think there's some candlestick chart just to show that different perspective. So you can see for the longest time the 50-day moving average was trending down. Now it finally flattened out. We got the 20-day moving average. This is all simple moving averages. 20-day simple is now crossed above the 50. Of course, we were trending above the T line and the 3T line. Now we do have a bearish engulfing candlestick on Friday, and it closed below the T line, but you see we haven't even tested that 20-day simple moving average, which would come into play currently. It's a moving target, but currently around 2181. And then the 50-day, of course, is down here just over 20. Now, I don't suspect we'll hit the 50. That seems like too deep, but it wouldn't surprise me to kind of come into this 20-day simple moving average, which also happens to be in the range of this previous resistance. So that'd be a nice little technical area to test before heading up. And of course, just quickly jump back to the wave chart here. In order for this short-term wave count to remain intact, if this really is a fourth wave to balance out this second wave, we should not overlap with wave 1 here. So that extreme was 2165. So for this, not that it would be necessarily bearish overall to do that, but for this particular short-term interpretation to remain valid, and for this to be a little fourth wave, we can't. We can hit 2165, but we can't go a tick below it, or else that's overlap. So that's a little area you could perhaps define a short-term trade against if you want to use the wave count interpretation here as a form of risk management. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily, but I will be watching to see if that area repels price if it gets close to it, because that'll be a nice kind of short-term bullish sign. So yeah, that's kind of a key level short-term, 2165. And again, it's amazing how some of these levels just line up so nicely with some of these common moving averages. So again, that 20-day simple is slightly above that level right now, 2181, and that wave invalidation short-term will be 2165. So those are some key levels to look at. I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a flush down on Monday, and then perhaps start a nice bounce, and maybe that smaller degree fifth wave up will start out of that. So still watching CGC. Overall, still liking the chart, notwithstanding the recent pullback here. So far, it looks corrective. It looks healthy, but we'll see what brings, we'll see what next week brings. All right, that's good. Serial Trader signing off.